We're going to start with the Club World Cup. I am literally on my way after I tape the show. By the time you listen to the show, I will be USA bound to cover the group stages of the Club World Cup. And I have a piece coming out about it. I'm going to give you a little preview here. Sometimes good things happen for bad reasons. Or sometimes bad things help good things happen.
Okay.
All right? So we can go through the whole litany of bad things or associated with the 2025 Club World Cup. If I forget something, jump in and correct me, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming at the end of the season and everybody's tired.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to go and sell the TV rights properly, and so they had to do this weird thing with Saudi Arabia and DAZN. Nobody's buying tickets.
Yeah.
It's kind of like another attack, or can be seen as an attack from FIFA and club football vis-a-vis the Champions League and so ever. Why is he doing this? It's about money, so they can make more money and redistribute it to his voters, so then they re-elect Gianni Infantino another time. These are all the bad things.
Yeah.
They chose the wrong stadiums, whatever, right? And we can probably agree that some of those things are dubious. Yes.
Yeah.
It was forced through without a proper consultation and vote. So they really do the thing where, the heads of confederations get around, they agree, and then they say, "Oh yeah, guys, let's all vote on this," but we've already agreed.
Yeah.
Right. All of that, sure. But this is a good thing, I think, long term. This is something that hopefully will be around long after Gianni Infantino and FIFA, maybe even you and me, are gone.
Yeah.
And if it does, it can be a tournament that actually helps club football around the world. Because, let's face it, many years ago, there was strong club football in South America and strong club football in Europe. Now, there's strong club football in the top, maybe the big 5 leagues in Europe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names in Saudi, whatever. We're not sure how good they are. But it's also because somebody's chucking money into a furnace and it's not a real business.
Yeah.
Can this be a way of involving the rest of the world, of promoting it?
Yeah, I think the idea is great. Of course, the timing, but you could have played this any time in the season, anywhere, and there would have been a problem because, it's congested. The season is already congested. You play already a lot of games, and you add this to it. So let's see how clubs approach it. If it's half a preseason, half a tournament, you still take it seriously, but you have to rotate, and you can't have your same starting 11 playing all 3 group matches and then the knockout stage. It's gonna work. And you were saying that it's already very hot in the US. So for the players, they will have to approach it, and let's see how they approach it, all the managers and the players. But I think it's great. For a long time, we've said, I would like to see the winner of the Asian Champions League against the winner of the Libertadores, against the winner of the CONCACAF Champions League, against the winner of the European Champions League, and all of that. This is good. You've got, in all those groups, in all the 8 groups that you have in this competition, and not all the games are going to be great, but not all the games in the Champions League are great either.
Most of them.
But there's a lot of interesting matchups. There's a lot of teams that you don't know much about, or players that you will discover. And I think for that is great.
I think fundamentally, we have a problem in Europe when it comes to football, especially in Western Europe, especially in this country, but I think also in Italy, in Spain, Germany, whatever. We were there's an expression like, born on third base and you think you've hit a triple. We take it for granted that this is our birthright, to have all the money and all the resources and everybody comes here. One of the things that Gianni Infantino said many years ago, and I think he was right, on this one, is he said, there's money all over the world, but when it comes to football, they only spend that money, or they spend the money almost exclusively in Europe, right? And that just strengthens the game. And as soon as anybody's halfway decent anywhere in the world, they tend to come to Europe. And it's difficult for those teams to grow. But those are really big teams, not just the South American teams that have all the legacy. But, there's teams that pack out stadiums in Asia, in Africa. Auckland City may be slightly different, and that's a weird quirk. But why not give them a chance to grow? Isn't this exactly what FIFA's mission statement is, which is to develop the game, not just the national team game, but the club game around the world?
Yeah, I agree. And this is every 4 years. So come on. It's not if it was every 6 months and we're like, again, so 4 years. You've got 4 years to qualify for it, and coefficient stuff. So teams will see this and say, I want to be part of it next time. It's good.
There we go. People are going to accuse us of being FIFA shills, but we don't care. We're going to talk about this more on the Gab and Juls podcast. All right, Jules, let's get stuck into this because, again, people are going to say about the negatives. And in these, we have to be realistic about this, right? One of the things with FIFA is that it's a sporting non-profit organization, right? All the money that comes in, it then goes back out to the member associations, and in this case, the clubs. Now, obviously, it's not that simple because if I'm the FIFA president, first of all, I have a whole sort of political image thing. I have a lot of influence. I want to get reelected, maybe even for more terms than I was supposed to. In the laws I wrote myself, by the way, which were supposed to have term limits. And so the way I get reelected is by making sure all these member associations, they keep getting money from me. And to do that, FIFA has to make a lot of money so that then it can redistribute this money, right? This is the basic business model, right? There's no shareholders. It's not like Johnny gets stock options or anything, right? So let's be clear on this. So when we ask ourselves, and I just want to spend a little bit of time on this, and like, what could they have done differently? What could they have done better? One big thing is, for me, one obvious thing is, all right, it's the first one. Do you need to have 32 teams? Could 16 have been sufficient? The counter argument to that, and this is part of the problem, is everybody wants a chunk of this money because he promised like $1 billion in prize money. If you go with 16 teams, you either pack it with European teams. So there's 12 European teams, right? So let's say you have everything and you have 6 European teams. 6 European teams, shorter tournament, less games, less stock to sell, both to sponsors and to TV companies. Fewer European teams probably means less star power overall. More of a risk that you might get stuck with more Salzburgs and fewer Real Madrids. But obviously Real Madrid is always going to be there. But so that is the reason. And I'm wondering, from a sporting perspective, should they have held fast on 16 teams? Because they would say, well, guys, if I make it 16 teams, I run the risk of some teams saying, meh, I'm not making enough money off this. I'd rather go on tour. I'd rather rest up and then go on tour later.
Yeah, you will still have made more money with 16 teams than what you do on tour, where on tour you probably get 3-4 million per game if you play 2 games, sometimes 3. This will still be more. But yeah, I agree with you. And also, I think as a first one, to just see how it goes. 32 is a hell of an organization, even for TV rights, even for DAZN who bought the rights, for the fans who want to travel, for the club to get organized with hotels, logistics, all of that. It's a bit more complicated. So I like the idea of maybe having started a bit smaller, but hey, they went for the big thing. And like you said, like we said earlier, it's once every 4 years. So let's see how this one goes. You've got then 4 years to make it better for the 2029 edition, wherever you play it, whoever is in it, however well you qualify, because there was a little bit of dodginess in how you qualify for some countries and regions.
Each region, each confederation made their own rules for qualifying. And so in UEFA, I'm not going to go through all the rules.
No, but we get the idea. We've mentioned it enough on the show.
We've talked about it enough. And obviously, the Inter Miami situation was a bit of a screw job. And this whole nonsense with Club Leon taking it all the way to the wire. Again, Club Leon would have probably attracted, or they thought was going to attract more than Alajuelense and then whatever, right? But we've been through all this. What about in terms of timing?
It felt to me, and you know more than me on that, it felt a little bit rushed. It felt like it has to be in 2025 because it can't be in 2026. 2027 feels in a long time. So let's make sure it happens in 2025. And it felt to me...
2027, you have the Women's World Cup as well.
You have the Women's World Cup in the US, so it can't even happen. It could have happened, but somewhere else for the men's game. And it felt like they really wanted it in this summer 2025 at all cost, and it had to go on it, even if it was not completely ready, even if the project was not, even if we didn't even know who exactly had qualified back then. They launched it very quickly, I felt, and in the end they will get there because FIFA savoir-faire is great. So it would be a really good tournament, well organized, and the quality we will see it, but he will be good. But it still felt a little bit rushed. And even us, like you're going today, I'm going to be working on it from here in London. And it's just like, okay, it's happening now. Wow, we don't even feel ready ourselves properly.
No, we're not. We haven't had that big build-up that normally you get with World Cups when everything stops. And it was definitely rushed. I mean, it also feels like a little weird that, like, right, let's imagine a parallel universe where Barcelona or Arsenal win the Champions League, which is possible, right? Didn't happen, but possible. but they wouldn't have qualified
Yeah.
for this Club World Cup, which again
That in itself is wrong.
feels kind of weird,
Absolutely.
right?
So that has to change for the next one.
In other words, you would just say like, look, it's a last minute thing, but hey, we can deal with it with the playoffs.
Yeah.
I wonder how much from the perspective of the sponsors comes into it too, because if I'm Barcelona and I'm or Arsenal, in this case, I'm planning ahead, right? My summer, I'll have these friendlies and whatever, and then what do? Like rip up all the contracts on May 31st because I've won because I've won the Champions League and I have to go.
But it would be weird for a Club World Cup to not have the reigning European champions in there.
It feels weird. Yeah. It feels they won't have the Asian Champions League. Sorry, the African Champions League champions, right?
Yeah.
Pyramids FC.
Yeah.
They're not going.
And the Asian Champions League.
Exactly. So that part is just feels odd. Like we said. So could they have played this at another time of year?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can. You can play January, February, like you have
the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah, or like
you can't play. You can't play January, February in the US.
No.
I mean, unless you make everything and you play everything in Texas and Florida and Alabama. Or
where will you play the next one? Really? What kind of other country offers you everything that the US offers?
You would have to presumably go and share it out between different countries. I
mean, I think the next one will be in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia, personally, but that's just my opinion and me being a little bit cynical, but I can see it so obviously being there. But then if it's in the summer, it's too hot.
You can't have it in summer.
So you have it, if it's there, it'll have to be at a different time. And again, you arrange the schedule. But what about all the other teams that usually play?
Yeah.
So it's a bit difficult.
I mean, I think all this boils down to is there's too much fixture congestion in the camp. But we've been saying that for a long, long time. I think one other aspect is it's the U.S. Like the U.S. is kind of like the El Dorado of football people, like especially in other parts of the world. They're like, oh, if we can never crack soccer in the U.S., I'll make so much money. And then they go to NFL games and they look at the projections and they say, you sell these tickets for how much? And stupid compared to the Super Bowl. And guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Jules, you and I are both fans of U.S. sports. Stop comparing yourself to the NFL. Yeah. There are 17 games in an NFL regular season, right? There are 38 games in the Premier League. So obviously those 17 games are going to be worth more money. Yeah. There's one market for the NFL, one domestic market. I mean, it's 300 million people. There's the highest GDP in the world.
Yeah.
People are used to going to games and dropping a lot of money. Hey, look, do I want to pay $75 for parking? Of course I do.
But there's still things that are realistically that the NFL does or do that could be
very good.
Yeah, copied or could be an inspiration. But you're right. Tickets. So the tickets price is definitely not.
But this is the crucial thing here, right?
Yeah.
So he said, let's have it in the U.S. because people there are used to getting the NFL treatment.
Yeah.
Or I might even add, frankly, the Major League Soccer treatment. Because, I mean, the last time I went to a Major League Soccer game, I won't name and shame them. I paid $40 to park my car, which seems it was actually slightly more than my ticket. But so you want to have it in the U.S., and again, they have overpromised. They've overpromised in terms of sponsors. They've overpromised in terms of tickets. That's why the ticket prices are way down. I don't know if this is still going to be the case, but as of last week, as you know, for the opening game in Miami, featuring Inter Miami, featuring this obscure footballer nobody's ever heard of and who definitely doesn't put bums in seats, a guy named Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
There were tons of tickets available at 1/6 the original asking price.
Yeah.
There was a thing doing the rounds on Reddit where if you were a student at Miami-Dade Community College, which is one of the local junior colleges in Miami, where if you bought one ticket for $20, you could get another 4 tickets for free.
I mean, that's what they will do anyway. They can't have an empty stadium, so there will be, I think, a lot of invitations or free thing. But I think personally that it will be a slow start for all the reasons that we said, and also right now in the US, I don't think the atmosphere or the mindset is to focus on soccer and football. So I get that. I think it will pick up and it will get better as it goes because people will start watching. People would want to go to the stadium. You will have the big European teams or South American teams or Mexican teams that will be in town. So that will attract. I think it'll be a slow start, but then we will get there. But we will repeat what we said earlier in one of the past shows. They were also over-ambitious in the size of the stadiums that they picked, because one thing that the US have is all size stadium. You can go and you'll have some MLS ones that are decent size, others are much bigger. You can have super big, you could have, and I felt that they chose some stadiums that were a little bit too ambitious to fit.
There's no question about that. Make it a scarce property. But again, they were driven by promises that we're going to go and make all this money, and they felt they needed to do it because remember Florentino, Real Madrid grumbling about how much prize money you're going to get, deciding the prize money allocation. By the way, in case you don't know this, I did an interview with the chairman of Mamelodi Sundowns from South Africa, who are going to be competing. And if you're a South African team and you get the exact same results as Real Madrid and you win, you're going to get substantially less money than Real Madrid do for winning and getting the exact same results. And many reasons for this. It's part of the negotiation. The Champions League also distributes money this way.
It's the same,
But it feels a little bit unfair.
Yeah, a little bit.
They don't do this in the World Cup, right? They don't say like, oh, look, Mexico, you're the biggest TV market in the world. Okay, fine. So you guys get more money. They don't do that, right? So it's a really complex balancing act. I want to hit two other quick things. One is you've taken a closer look, I have to say.
Yeah, we have to talk about football as well.
We have to talk about the football side.
We talked about all the preview from the rest. And like we said, we're excited, but we don't know what kind of approach teams will take into this competition. You might have a bit of a B team for some of those group stages games if you're, I don't know, Real Madrid or Man City or Chelsea, or not. It might be later in the competition. You might mix, you might rotate, I don't know. But there's some really, really tasty fixtures to come up. In the Group B, for example, Atletico Madrid against PSG would be great. You also have Botafogo and the Seattle Sounders in that. You've got the Group C with Bayern, Benfica and Boca in there.
And
plus Auckland FC. Yeah. So which is good for them. I think it'd be a great experience. I don't expect them to either score many goals or get many points. But still, Chelsea with Esperance, Tunis, Flamengo, LAFC is a good draw for them. But again, you face teams that you don't usually face. But Inter Milan against River Plate is great. We saw Fluminense and Thiago Silva, for example, and a few others, Brazilian players who used to be in Europe. So there's great. There's a Juventus Manchester City game coming up, for example. I don't know what games you're going to cover there, Gabby, but I think there's a lot of interesting things. And even if Al Ain Wydad is not your favorite, like Saudi against Morocco, there might still be stuff that are interesting in games like that.
Yeah, and I think also some of these, when you've got teams from in certain areas, that's the other thing about the U.S., right? It's a very big, diverse country, especially certain parts of the country. People have criticized certain locations, which maybe are less diverse, but, you put a Tunisian team in, Esperance, a giant stadium, or in Philadelphia, or in L.A., you're going to get, the second generation.
Africa. Yeah, of course.
Get,
absolutely.
Obviously, we already get that with Mexico. We know that. So I think that side of it will be okay. We'll be fine. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get one or two upsets immediately.
Yeah,
somebody being shocked.
For the reasons that we said, because some will approach it with their first team, full team, all the way through, and others will treat it as a preseason.
And some have been prepping for 3 weeks, and others, we'll just have guys coming back from the Nations League and whatnot. The other thing, I want to go back to this. I don't know if this is the world of football that we will ever get or that we want, but it seems to me like we live in a globalized world, right? And as I said before, certain teams, certain countries, because of their history, because of the geopolitics of it, have a massive built-in advantage. And I think that advantage continues growing, right? The Champions League gets more and more valuable. And so Flamengo's not going to catch up with Bayern Munich. It's just not going to happen for a very, very long time. Yeah. This can be a first little baby step to at least give them a chance. And I think primarily here of Brazilian teams, or South American teams, I should say, and European and African teams, right? Because they produce, a sizable plurality of the world's top footballers. And what happens as soon as the kids can legally do so, sometimes illegally, at 18, they move to Europe.
Yeah.
And their teams have no shot, no prayer of keeping them. Even if they're a big long shot in Europe, what happens? They go and they'll play in the Belgian third division or the Italian third division or whatever, right? They come here, or Scandinavia, sorry. the worst. Not the worst, but
No, but yeah.
There's
This
a
is
lot.
the
You
pathway.
document yourself of what happens
Yeah.
or what has happened at some clubs. If these guys could get paid a decent enough salary to stick around in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, where many of these countries players come from, so that they develop a little bit, then maybe their clubs could actually get a transfer fee from them, and then they could reinvest that in the academies. I mean, I think this is what we're trying to create. I mean, it's the same thing with Brazil. But when I was a kid, many years ago, teams from Brazil used to hang on to their players until they were 22, 23 years old. They were able to do that, and they got big transfer fees. Now they get transfer fees, but they lose them when they're 16 or 18. But then they. So I think if we think this is the right thing to do, forget the business side of it, then I think you have to embrace this long term. And there's a lot wrong with the way this first edition comic came out. But in the long term, surely, from where I sit, and I think from where you sit, this is the right thing to do.